What's up, guys? So I wanted to talk a little bit about peptides since it's kind of a hot topic right now. I'm going to talk about which ones I'm using right now in my post-show period and what applications they have in other phases, what you could use them for. So the first one I'll talk about, this one's really hot right now, is retatrutide. Now, there's a little bit of hate on retatrutide because, as a bodybuilder, we should be able to suffer through a diet. I do believe in that builds character. That is true bodybuilding. You do need to learn how to suffer through a diet and stay disciplined through a prep. Now, this can help with kind of killing some food cravings and killing that focus on food during prep. You'll start looking at the time and you're like, oh crap, I gotta eat, instead of sitting there staring at the clock, waiting to eat waiting for that next meal. So it does help a little bit, not a lot. You still have to have discipline, and these are things you don't want to overuse, especially retatrutide, because it will mess up your digestion. So very low dosage of like 1 milligram to 2 milligrams a week, starting there. Honestly, I didn't go above 1.5 milligrams at all in my prep. I'm actually using it now in my reverse diet or recovery diet, post-show period. Not really for, it will help. I am using a little bit for the appetite suppression, but I don't really need that. I'm using it more to help with insulin sensitivity. So it will help with keeping your blood sugar a little lower, especially if you're in a calorie surplus or not in a calorie deficit. So I think this is a really good time to use it in a post-show period to help with not only keeping the hunger in check, focusing on eating your meals, when that time comes, instead of sitting there looking at the clock waiting to eat. The post-show period is very hard for some people. Sometimes it's harder than prep. And I think this does help a little bit, just mentally staying a little bit less food focused. Again, I do believe starting out as a bodybuilder, you should learn and suffer through a diet and learn how to be disciplined before you add something like this in. This is not some magic peptide that people should just be using right off the bat. Learn how to be disciplined. Learn the ropes of bodybuilding. Like, learn how to suffer through a diet. It's good for you. It does build character. As you become more advanced, then you can add stuff like this in. Again, this is not something to be overused. This is not a crutch. Okay, so in prep, the other thing I will say about retatrutide is you do want to pull it. A lot of people will say 2 weeks out from a show. What I noticed in my first peak at Chicago is I pulled it 2 weeks out. My digestion was still a little bit off during peak week, during loading carbs. 2 weeks later, loading for Tampa, I had a lot better digestion, eating the same amount of food. So I think giving it a little bit more time, I would say minimum 3 weeks, pulling that 3 weeks out from your show if you're gonna be having to load carbs or load food. I didn't add this in directly post-show, especially if you're gonna be doing like a breakfast with the family, maybe a weekend with the family, that kind of thing. I do believe on getting back on track right after show, at least, the day, 2 days after, maybe that day after, enjoying time with family. So give it a couple days before you add this in post-show. SLU. So this is another one. SLU, it helps with basically burning more calories. You could use this not in place, but with other lipolytics, but using less lipolytics that also kind of like hinder adrenal function. So not having to use as much lipolytics and fat burners and stuff, PDs, in prep is beneficial, but this is also not a crutch. So there is, people go as high as 20 milligrams a day. You could start this at 400 micrograms a day, and work up to like 800 micrograms, 1,000 micrograms. But to be honest, I didn't go above 800 micrograms in prep. Now this does speed up how fast your mitochondria is like working. So it's like an exercise mimetic. So basically, like if you're working out, I would take it like pre-cardio, pre-fasted cardio, and pre-workout. I did my fasted cardio in the morning, worked out later in the afternoon, take 200 before, fasted cardio, 200 before workout. As that dosage crept up a little bit or tapered up, you add the dosage where you or you can pre-cardio, pre-workout. So again, not a crutch, still need to diet. What I will say also in a post-show phase is to help maintain a little bit leaner body composition, but not at a very high dosage. This should be kind of tapered out through your recovery diet or reverse diet, and then giving yourself a break of this. In an off-season setting or like a maintenance setting, this could be used to kind of just like improve body composition. And then the other one is injectable L-carnitine. That one, I mean, this one's kind of, not really a hot topic. A lot of people know about this, but injectable versus oral L-carnitine, huge difference. There is health benefits, heart benefits, kidney benefits, because at some point, the heart can impact the kidneys. So also any growth hormone usage, this pairs well with that. And using these in prep, right, you're gonna get a little bit more fat loss. Pre-workout, it's also gonna help, and I like to take this pre-workout with a high carb meal. So the carbs help the absorption of L-carnitine pre-workout, and it's also gonna help preventing muscle protein breakdown throughout your workout. So you get a little bit more a little bit more energy and fat loss. And the other one would be glutathione. So glutathione, you'll see that for immune function, for sure. And how, your recovery is based on how good your immune system is as well, right? So the better your immune system is, the faster you're gonna recover. Also, especially with like organs, like liver, this will be really beneficial for anybody, especially coming off, a show or prep and having used any PEDs orally. That's going to help with repairing any damage there. And you can go pretty high with those dosages. I would say you could go like once a week with a high dosage, or you can split it up and go daily with a smaller dosage. And then you have another peptide is SS31. So it's kind of the opposite of SLU, whereas SLU speeds up mitochondria and to help you burn more calories, but SS31 strengthens mitochondria. So this is more for recovery. This would be better taken in a nighttime setting before bed. Now you'll see a lot of research or people saying you need to take 1 milligram, 2 milligram, 3 milligram a day. That gets pretty expensive. Not saying that doesn't work and that's not the best application for it, probably is. But if you can't afford that, I've seen results with just 500 micrograms daily before bed. And I like to pair it with glutathione. Definitely, I feel like I sleep better. Now I've taken this like on a leg day, like right after training legs, take it the night of after training legs. The next morning, I was in prep too, doing an hour of cardio. I've never felt my legs feel so fresh after a leg day. After training hard on a leg day, doing an hour of cardio daily, and the next morning feeling so fresh and like that sluggish feeling, like your legs are just like they're being held down, they feel like jello. They just feel heavy and you feel sluggish. Even walking around, you can feel that fatigue. That next morning, even with 500 micrograms, huge difference for me. But yeah, that pretty much covers the peptides that I'm using right now post-show. SLU, that's going to be kind of, that's phasing out, kind of tapered down from prep. So I'm at 400 micrograms, 200 in the morning, 200 pre-workout, and you really want to give yourself a break from that. But the SS31, pretty much I'm using it with lower dosages daily, kind of microdosing it, but for a longer period of time through my whole health phase of 8 weeks or so. So, and glutathione as well. I don't like to do the big high dosages once a week. You can definitely do that, especially if you go into like a spa or a clinic that does the injections for you. You can definitely get a high dose of glutathione, be good for the whole week. Nothing wrong with that. I just prefer to do it daily or every other day, and spread it out a little bit more. Just a couple tips to save money there, and I try to get the most out of the least amount, until it's time to increase. And if there is time to increase, you know, if there's money to increase, then do it. Now, you can get all these peptides on parabolicpeptides.com and use code PLAZA10, all lowercase, and you'll save some money there. And all of these peptides are available there. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing post-show. Those are my recommendations for, you know, different phase, for using these in different phases. And, you know, there is tons of research, you know, not a lot of human research, but there is research out there. So you can, you know, take that for what it is. Some people don't believe in using peptides at all. I'm not a big peptide person, to be honest, and I haven't really started using many peptides until this prep or this year. But I have seen a difference. You have to first make sure everything else, you're optimizing everything else. Okay, nutrition, training, recovery, PED stack, that kind of stuff, blood work. Optimize what you can there, health supplementation, optimize what you can there before you think about adding these in, okay? These are things that are extra on top of what you're doing already to help, to supplement those other things. These are not crutches. You can't just, you know, especially like glutathione SS31, talking about recovery, we can't just abuse that thinking, oh yeah, we can just train harder because we have this. And no, keep your training the same as you would if you didn't have it in. Okay, now add these in to help in certain phases, and these are also things you need to take a break from, not things to just be running all the time. Now, glutathione, L-carnitine, you could run that, you know, all year round. But, you know, you get tired of using it, injecting, that kind of thing, take a break from it. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so those are my recommendations on the peptides that I'm using right now and how I use them. But there's plenty of ways to skin a cat, other ways to use these peptides. So take that for what it is. But thanks for listening, guys. If you like this video, like it, share it with others, and please subscribe.